Welcome back to Elite Sports Talk. I'm Charlie B, and man, if you thought this week in sports was wild, you might want to take a seat and buckle up for the ride because we're going to be covering it all, at least within the NHL, NBA, and NFL world. It was a wild championship game for college basketball for both sides, really, but we're going to start with the women. South Carolina, for the second consecutive year, not only made it to the championship, but got blown out in crazy fashion. So UCLA, I personally didn't see this coming. I apologize, but I just, there was a few teams that I had paid attention to. UCLA did not, to me, look like the team that was going to wind up winning the whole thing. But they wound up beating the Gamecocks 79-51. And this was actually the first ever championship by the UCLA Bruins for the women. And so obviously history was made there. They 37-1 record this season. Their only loss actually came to Texas, which the funny thing is South Carolina only had 3 losses this year prior to the championship game, and both of those losses also came to Texas, 2 of the 3 rather. And their only loss for the Bruins this year was on November 26th to the Texas Longhorns. They had a 28-point margin of victory, and it was actually the 3rd largest in a women's title game. UCLA outscored South Carolina by 16 points in the third quarter alone. Largest single quarter margin in title game history. If you didn't know, now you do. Gabrielle Jaquez, 21 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, so team high in points. And it was obviously an emotional performance for her. Her brother was actually in the building, Jaime Hawkins Jr., I believe, from Miami Heat. And he actually himself had a really good performance just a few nights prior to that. So, like I said, that was really cool, really emotional game for her, and that's pretty special. Right now, both of them are doing it at a pretty high level in their respected, I was going to say sport, they play the same sport, but, on their levels. She's still in college, he's already in the NBA. Lauren Betts also had a really good game. She had a double-double, 14 points, 11 boards, and was actually named the tournament's most outstanding player, and she's projected to be one of the highest picks in the WNBA draft. Gianna Neepkins had 15 points. South Carolina was held to just 26% shooting through the first 2 quarters of the game, and were actually 1 for 8 from 3. Especially when you have that big of a deficit, if you can't make it from the perimeter, there's no way that you're getting back in the game. South Carolina, Latson and Joyce Edwards could not find their rhythm against UCLA's defense, and the crazy thing is, South Carolina had one of the better defenses in all of college basketball, too. So, for UCLA to, pretty much do to South Carolina what the Gamecocks had done to everybody else, that's what you got to do sometimes, man. That was their recipe to beat them on the defensive side. Plus, like we just said, they had 2 girls right away that had double-doubles. Then you had Neepkins with 15 points. Coach Corey Close, she's been UCLA's coach ever since 2011-2012 season. So it took her 15 years to finally get to the pinnacle of the sport, but she finally got there. And this is actually only the second Big Ten school to win the women's title. The first was 1998. It was Purdue. So again, this is just all around great things for the UCLA Bruins. it may have taken them quite a while to get there, but they did, and they overthrew, a team that looked like they were on a historic run, like they were going to be like a dynasty. And now we have the question of, what's going to happen to this South Carolina team. And obviously, some of their better players are getting ready to go into the WNBA next season. But it's just crazy to see a team as dominant as South Carolina in the regular season, back-to-back years, to get blown out. Last year was obviously the UConn, and which they took them down to get into this game. But it's just it's a crazy time right now for Dawn Staley and the Gamecocks. It also shows how different the group of girls will wind up being next season. It's just it's something that we're going to have to keep our eyes out on. And so let's go to the men now. Michigan, they end their 37-year drought by beating UConn and Dan Hurley 69-63. And this was actually at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. There was over 70,700 fans there. Michigan's first national championship since 1989. So, again, the 37-year drought. So, two teams where it had taken them, seemingly at least a decade for one. The other one, it took over 3, almost 4 decades to get back to where they were. And for the Big Ten men's basketball, this is the first title since Michigan State, which was 26 years ago now, back in 2000. Michigan finished the regular season 37-3. They averaged over 21.5 point margin of victory through the first 5 tournament games. And obviously, we had already talked about this last time. Dan Hurley was looking to get his 3rd title in 4 years. So UConn, ended that. So yeah, it's crazy for Dan Hurley because he still is. He's still one of the best, if not the best coach in college basketball. There's a lot of up-and-coming guys. This year we've seen so many college coaches. And for Michigan, obviously, to be able to beat Dan Hurley when everybody knows how great UConn and he has been since he's been with UConn, rather. But so some of the top performers in this game, Elliot Cadeau, 19 points. He actually led Michigan despite foul trouble in the first half of the game. Morez Johnson Jr. had a double-double, 12 points and 10 boards. And he led the team in the first half. And he was named the Final Four most outstanding player. Excuse me. Then you got a couple more here. Trey McKinney, who had 9 points and 8 rebounds, just shy of a double-double himself. He hit a massive three-pointer late in the game to put Michigan up by 9 points, which essentially put the nail in the coffin. Yaxel Lendenberg had 13 points, and he was actually the Big Ten Player of the Year. He only had 2 points in the first half, but he obviously came alive late in the game. Michigan went 25 of 28 from the free throw line. And so really, that was really kind of the story of the game, was if you're making 25 points from the free throw line, that's a wrap right there. Especially if the other team can't get to the line. UConn's Alex Caravan and Solo Ball couldn't overcome Michigan's size advantage in the paint. They both had decent games. Ball had 11 points. Caravan had a double-double, 17 points, 11 boards. And then Terrace Reed Jr., who we had seen had been big for them in the last couple of rounds. He did even have a double-double in this one, 13 points and 14 boards. Coach Dusty May, for him, this is a dream come true. Again, this took 37 years for them to get back to the promised land. Michigan built their championship roster, though, largely on the using the transfer portal. And so that's the thing here, is that's really what I feel like the story of this is, Michigan winning this title was largely built on that with the whole transfer portal. And so going forward, is this going to be the new model? Is everybody going to follow this with both really football and basketball? And does that mean that it kind of, to a degree, I guess you would say, lessen what a championship means if you're just constantly going out and bringing in a whole new team worth, or just shy of, an entire roster of people? And, basketball obviously doesn't carry as many people as football. Football, it's a lot harder, I feel like, to get a cohesive unit going through a transfer portal when you have 70 plus players. But basketball, you really only probably need to get maybe 10 to 12 players. But my point is, whatever happened to just building the team that you have and going 3 or 4 years with those same guys? So yeah, this looks like this is probably going to wind up being just the way of the world now in college sports, and specifically basketball and football. But for the Big Ten, they got to be very elated. They obviously now have 3 champions in the same year, with the Indiana Hoosiers in football, UCLA for women, and now Michigan for the men. So obviously the most dominant conference of this year for both sports. But yeah, so now we're going to go ahead and get into a little bit of hockey, but I can't wait. I can't wait for next year for college basketball. And like I was saying before, some of these teams, some of these girls I'm going to be eyeing next year is going to be Audie Crooks. Still yet to know where she's going. Speaking of the transfer portal, she's entering the portal. She had announced that about a week ago, maybe a little less than a week ago. Who knows? Maybe she'll end up on South Carolina. That'll help Dawn Staley probably get a championship then. And then not UCLA. UCLA will look to see how they fare next year, and if they could go back to back, who knows? But really, USC is another team that I personally am going to keep my eyes on, because Jazzy Davidson, who was a freshman this year, and Juju Watkins, which I think next year is probably going to be her last year at USC. But yeah, it's crazy time right now. So the NHL is coming down to the last day of the season. We got some really tight races for the wild cards in both the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. Boston Bruins, they look like they're going to lock up that first wild card spot, which, I mean, they've been holding on to that for a while now, and they're out front by about 4 or 6 points, I believe. The number 2 wild card, that's where it gets the most interesting, because you have the Ottawa Senators clinging onto that spot right now, and they actually have the most regulation wins among the contenders, which is huge. That's a tiebreaker for them. You got the Detroit Red Wings that are still in the mix with 89 points, and then you still have the Islanders and the Washington Capitals, both with all 3 of them with 89 points. The Columbus Blue Jackets, however, are the team that is right below Ottawa right now with 90 points. So all these teams that I just mentioned, all 4 of these teams are within 2 to 3 points of the Senators. And Washington has 3 games left, so that's something to look at. But however, they are the bottom of those teams that I just mentioned. So obviously they don't own, as of right now, they don't own a tiebreaker over the Islanders or the Red Wings. But they have 3 games left and will have to make the most of them. And especially, if they don't make the playoffs with, the future of Ovi up in the air right now, that would be a shame if they don't make it. I personally don't think that they will be able to catch back up. They got a lot of obstacles in their way, and plus Detroit and the Islanders both have 4 games left. So, it's going to be tough, man. It's definitely going to be tough. You would need 4 other teams to kind of lose out, that's basically what you're going to need, because everybody only has 3 games left, or 4 at most at this point. 5 teams within 1 point of each other at various points this week, which that's insane that it's coming down to that it's really this close on both sides. And April 16th, I believe, is the last day of the regular season for the NHL. Then you got the Carolina Hurricanes, who have already clinched in their division, the Metropolitan. Tampa Bay and Buffalo and Montreal were all in a 3-way tie, actually. Montreal is now 2 points, Buffalo is 2 points ahead of Tampa Bay and Montreal right now. Buffalo right now, leads by 2 points. Then let's get to the Western Conference, which the Western Conference, it's a bit of a mix here. You got... Well, first off, I guess we'll talk about the wild card race here. Utah looks like they're going to lock up, just like I said about Boston in the East. They're 4 points, have a 4-point lead right now on the Predators. The Predators are in, right now, the wild card number 2 spot with 84 points. But they've literally been trading spots with the LA Kings day by day for that final spot. And there's been as much as 3 teams that have had that wild card 2 spot in the last week or so. The third being the San Jose Sharks. But right now the Kings are at 83 points, so they're only 1 point back in Nashville. And I believe they do play Nashville one more time before the season ends in a couple of nights, I believe so. But yeah, Nashville actually owns the tiebreaker over the Kings, which is huge. And San Jose is actually 3 points back right now, but they do have more games in hand than Nashville, and they're 2 points behind the Kings. They do have a huge matchup tonight with the Anaheim Ducks, who they actually just beat about a week ago. Winnipeg is still mathematically alive, which last time we were on, we were talking about Connor Hellebuck, and how ever since coming back from the Olympic break, he was kind of up and down. He wasn't playing great puck, not the way that we're used to him being on the historic tear that he was on really during the Olympics, but also last year as well when he won all those different awards. And Winnipeg had the best record in the league. Well, they had the most points in the league. But yeah, so you have plenty of teams here fighting it out, duking it out for that last wildcard spot in both conferences. And then you have Atlantic Division title race. It's a 3-way tie, like I already mentioned, between Buffalo, Montreal, and Tampa. Well, again, Buffalo is out by 2 points. I'm sorry, when I made this, it was like a day or 2 ago. That's why I keep saying the wrong thing there. Montreal was on an 8-game win streak before they finally ended up losing a game. However, Cole Caulfield is only 1 goal away from being the first Hab with 50 goals since 1989-1990, which was actually before I was born. So that's also crazy. And Caulfield is one of the up-and-coming guys in the NHL. They have a young core of guys on Montreal, just like Anaheim does and a couple other teams. Buffalo is just sealed their playoff berth for the first time. They're going back to the playoffs since 2011. And the Lightning are looking to lock up the Atlantic crown with 4 games left on their slate. Pacific Division race is coming down to the very end, too. It looked like Anaheim for a while there was going to lock up that number 1 seat, but now Edmonton is out in front They got 3 games left, and they're actually out in front by 2 points, I believe, over Vegas. Vegas is on a 4-game win streak. They have 4 games remaining. And both of these teams, like I just said, jumped Anaheim within the last couple of games. And Edmonton holds the regulation wins tiebreaker over Vegas if they do wind up being, tied at the last game of the season. Anaheim is 1 point behind Vegas. They're 3 points back behind the Oilers. They are done playing both of those teams. So they got some ground that they got to make up. Everything is still right there for Anaheim to be able to possibly reclaim that 1 seed. I don't know that it's going to happen, though, guys. I think it's more likely that they'll get back up to the number 2 seed or just stay where they're at. Either way, it looks pretty likely that we're going to be playing the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round. And I say we because, as I mentioned before, I am an Anaheim Ducks fan. But Connor McDavid, well, first off, let's talk about last night. Last night, McDavid did only something that McDavid could do, man. This guy is an amazing talent. I believe that he's been the best player in hockey now since we stopped saying that Sidney Crosby was the number 1 guy. It's been a while, and McDavid last night had 5 points. He had a hat trick, and he had 2 assists. Leon Draisaitl has been out. He's missed some time. And, when Draisaitl's normally in the lineup, McDavid averages around 3.6 shots on goal. And without Leon, he's averaged just over 4, about 4.5 shots on goal. So, yeah. I mean, he really upped his gameplay last night, and honestly, I thought that game was going to be closer than it was. It ended up being, I think, 5-2 over San Jose, and in my opinion, McDavid is the MVP over Nikita Kucherov or Nathan MacKinnon. He leads the league in assists with, 86 assists. He's currently 3rd in goals with 47. And for a while, he was neck and neck with Kucherov. I think as of right now, it should go to McDavid. He also has 138 points, where Kucherov has 127 right now. And there's only a couple games left, like we just discussed. Nathan MacKinnon has 51 goals, 72 assists. I think he's 2nd in assists to McDavid. And, I mean, it was a very impressive season for MacKinnon, don't get me wrong. This is the 2nd time in his career that he reached 50 goals in a season, and he has 123 points. But, again, he's 3rd in points, 2nd in assists. I think he is, however, 1st in goals. But McDavid's just been playing out of his mind. And obviously, it's that much harder when you don't have Leon Draisaitl. I mean, sure, they have, a very talented roster, even without Draisaitl. But he just, after what he did last night, in my opinion, that sealed the deal. I think he's going to get the MVP. And right now, the current notable win streaks, like we talked about, Montreal had an 8-game win streak. They ended up losing a game about 2 or 3 nights ago, and then they won again after that. But they are 9-1 in their last 10. Utah, however, is tied for the longest win streak right now in the NHL with 4. And Vegas also is on the same 4-game win streak. Minnesota is on a 4-game win streak and has gone 7-3 in their last 10. But in my opinion, I think the hottest team in hockey right now is actually the Philadelphia Flyers. They're on a 3-game win streak and now also have gone 7-3 in their last 10. I mean, they've been on a tear for like the past month and a half now, and it looked like they weren't going to make a wild card spot. Not only are they going into the postseason, but they're probably going to wind up locking down the 3rd seed in the Metropolitan. So, yeah, that's just, if you're a Flyers fan, obviously you're very happy right now. You will wind up probably having to play the Pittsburgh Penguins, which is probably a matchup that you would want as one of your bigger rivals, if not the biggest. And there's also some other news that I wanted to talk about when it comes to the NHL. For one, it was pretty crazy to see not only one, but two coaches within the last week have been fired. And, just me saying that, if you don't really watch hockey, you're probably thinking like, oh, they're probably like teams that are in last place, bottom of the barrel teams. No, not at all. For one, the Vegas Golden Knights fired their head coach, Bruce Cassidy, which, I mean, they were never looking to not be in the playoff mix. They were always going to make it in. And I don't think that they had, even during their losing streak that they had, I don't think that they even bounced to a wild card spot. I believe that they were third in the Pacific the entirety of the entire time. So to see Bruce Cassidy get fired when he already took them to how many Stanley Cups? They already won a Stanley Cup. They've constantly, he had a great record as a head coach. They are constantly in the playoffs each and every year, I believe, since they came into the NHL. And it was just something weird to see that happen. They went out and hired, they didn't go out and hire, I believe he was an assistant for them, John Tortorella, who used to be the Flyers head coach, and he was also an assistant for Team USA in the Olympics that just passed, and he was at one point an ESPN analyst. But Vegas, they were on a 4-2-3 slide before they made that move. And really, they said that it's only going to be for the rest of this season. However, you never know. They could still be in discussions and maybe retain him for a year or two. I really don't know. But I know ever since he got there, what they were hoping would happen definitely worked out. He definitely took that intensity level, and he's making them look like a completely different team. They've won 4 in a row since his debut, including a hat trick from a newly acquired player, Mitch Marner. Vegas, like I said, they're second in the Pacific right now. They're fighting for first with Edmonton. I don't know if they're going to get it. I think Edmonton at this point is probably going to wind up winning it. I wish Anaheim was still in first there, but Anaheim has actually been on a 6-game losing streak, which I believe is their worst of the year. So they got to figure something out. They're playing a hungry Sharks team tonight. It is in Anaheim. They've been dealing with some injuries without Cutter Gauthier. And I think Leo Carlson got banged up again. But hopefully they can figure it out. And there is also a chance that the Kings could wind up grabbing the 3 seed from Anaheim. So hopefully Anaheim wins a couple more before the season ends here. Because, like I said, I feel like we're going to wind up playing Vegas. And that's not a team that you want to take lightly. Yes, we beat them 3-0 in the regular season. But just like in any sport, postseason is a completely different game. Everything is elevated. Everything is a faster pace. And so you want to go in with some firepower. And anyway, so back to the coaches that were dismissed this year. The second one was, I think it was a pretty big surprise. Patrick Waugh was fired from the New York Islanders after, it was with 4 games remaining on the season, but one of those games that they lost, it was bad. It was very bad. They lost 8-3 to Pittsburgh, And they actually let him continue to coach after that game. It wasn't until like 2 games later that they ended up firing him. I believe the news came out on Easter morning is when I think I seen it. He did overall he did pretty well as their coach for the past 3 seasons. He went 97, 78, and 22. They did, however, only have 1 playoff appearance in 2024, and they lost in the first round. He had 2 years remaining on his contract, and the guy that they brought in to replace him, he's obviously no scrub, Peter DeBoer, who comes in boasting a 662 to 447 and 152 career record. And he was just recently the Dallas Stars head coach who had led them to, I thought it was 2, but apparently it was 3 consecutive Western Conference Finals. The key difference between the situation in Vegas and the situation in New York is, like I said before, with Vegas, we don't know how long Tortorella is going to be there, if it's just for the rest of this year, because he's just an interim coach. They haven't really talked about signing him to any, even multi-year deal or anything like that. Whereas DeBoer did get a multi-year deal, and for them, it's not a Band-Aid. I think it's going to fix the Islanders. And they're going to continue to do what they got to do to either rebuild around him. But for one thing's for sure, they have one of the best rookies in hockey right now in Matthew Schaefer. I'm sure we've all seen that at some point this year, how great that kid is. The Islanders currently hold the 5th seed in the Metro, and with 89 points, it's not impossible. But I don't know that they're going to be able to reclaim even a wild card spot at this point, with both the Flyers and the Blue Jackets surpassing them and within those 4 losses. Prior to that, they were looking pretty good. At one point, I think they were as high as the 2nd seed in the Metropolitan. But yeah, so they're 3 points and 3 teams back from that number 2 wild card spot. And with teams, firing their coaches with 10 games or less, especially, like I said, when they're teams that are upper echelon teams that looked as though they were both going to make the postseason, you got to wonder, is it a desperation move sometimes, or is it more so smart management? And, we already see what Tortorella is doing, and DeBoer, can he actually make a difference this late? Can he get them back on track and win their last 3 or 4 games to make it back in? And if they do make it in, just like with Vegas, can both of these coaches do something spectacular in this postseason and get either one of their teams to the promised land and be able to raise old Stanley Cup at the end there? I guess we'll find out soon. Okay, so in the NBA right now, there's a couple of key things we're going to talk about here. The Sixers have been looking like they're sinking right now. Actually, some more news just came out earlier today about the Sixers, and we'll get that in a little bit. Victor Wembanyama, he got hurt the other night, actually, when he played against the Sixers. So now the question remains, will he be able to be the Defensive Player of the Year? And right now, the Denver Nuggets, if you haven't seen, they are on fire. They are the hottest team in the league. The Nuggets are on quite a tear. They have won 10 in a row. And since they got fully healthy, they actually wound up losing Peyton Watson again for, I don't even know when he's expected back. Probably not until the playoffs start. But so let's go back to April 4th, this past Saturday. Denver played at home against the San Antonio Spurs, where the Spurs were out in front the entirety of the game, except when it came down to, at some point in the fourth quarter, the Denver Nuggets took the lead, and then the Spurs came back. Denver ended up tying it up, took it into overtime, and wound up beating Victor Wembanyama and San Antonio Spurs 136 to 134 in overtime. And I think that was Jokic kind of like, saying to Victor, like, I know you said, I know you were kind of pointing your finger at me, talking about teams that don't play defense or individuals that don't play defense. And I think Jokic proved that not only can he play defense, but that when you have the ability to put points up and overall be as effective on the offensive side as he is, that maybe you can lack a little on defense. I mean, again, guys, he's a 3-time MVP. Really, in my opinion, he should be a 5-time MVP already, at least a 4-time, had he not have had to, see Embiid get the MVP the year that Jokic was actually the better player. Not that Embiid didn't deserve one. It was just Embiid should have gotten it the first year that Jokic got his MVP. That was really Embiid's year where he was incredible. He was out front of everybody. But back to the topic at hand. So Denver had beat the Spurs. Then they went and beat the Trailblazers 137 to 132 in overtime on Tuesday night. Jokic went for a triple-double in that one, 35, 13, and 13. Oh, and in the game against the Spurs, he had 48 and 13 and 3 blocks. And Victor had over 30 points. I believe he had like 17 rebounds and 8 assists. So it was a monster game, monster numbers from both of them. But Jokic all year long. I mean, again, it's not something that you should be taking lightly as a fan. If you don't watch the Nuggets, if you've never seen Jokic play, what are you waiting for, man? This is like watching, basketball when Jordan played, but never watching a single game from Michael Jordan. I mean, the guy has averaged over a triple-double now for the past 2 complete seasons. It's insane. And I don't think that we're ever going to see, especially from the center position, I don't know that this will ever happen again. Like, Wemby's a special player, but I don't think that he's going to be that type of player. I think he's going to be more of a defensive guy, game in and game out every year. He's going to probably have the most blocks, the best at rebounding. I don't really see him being able to have that same kind of effectiveness. He can put a lot of points up too. I'll give him that, but I don't know if he'll be that same type of animal with triple doubles that Nikola Jokic has been. And like I mentioned, they're on a 10-game win streak. This is actually the longest win streak of both Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray's career. Up to this point, 9-game win streaks. They had 2 different years while they were together. I think they had an 8-game win streak at one point. Currently, the Denver Nuggets are 3rd in the West. They're 52 and 28. They're locked in with the tiebreaker over the Lakers and the Houston Rockets. So, for example, what everybody was talking about with the rule because of injuries, the 65-game rule. Well, Jokic, I don't know that he's going to get the MVP. It looks like it's going to be Shea again. But, and Victor is another one that's going to fall victim to this. But Jokic right now is at 64 games. There are 2 games remaining for the Nuggets. That comes against the Oklahoma City Thunder tomorrow, I believe, or Saturday maybe. And then they have one more game against Victor Wembanyama again, if he's healthy and ready to play, and the San Antonio Spurs. That's their last game of the season. They really only need Jokic to play one of those games because, like I just mentioned, They are tied with both, or I'm sorry, they're at one game, I believe, in front of both Houston and the Lakers, but they own tiebreakers over both of those teams. So Jokic will get his 65th game, but I don't know that that's going to make a difference in the eyes of the voters for the MVP. Nuggets had 8 players last night in double digits on their 10th straight win, and Joker got his 34th triple-double of the year. Nothing new for this man. And right now he is, like I was just talking about the MVP voting, he is 8th in points per game this year, 1st in assist point per game, 1st in rebounds per game, obviously 1st in triple-doubles. So yeah, I don't know what more people want to see out of him to give him the MVP that he rightfully earns. I mean, his numbers are just crazy each and every year, and they're better this year. Actually, they've been better every single season that he's played, but they're much better this year than his last MVP. But yeah, I could go on and on. He's averaging 27.7, 13 and 10.8 assists. Leads the league, like I said, in 3 categories, and is 8th in scoring. And really, the main reason for this 10-game win streak is because of Jokic getting healthy and getting back to form. When he plays, it's as simple as this: they win. And overall in the NBA right now, the hottest teams, longest win streaks, other than Denver, Houston and OKC are both on 7-game win streaks. At one point, OKC had as many as like 12 straight, I believe. And even the Spurs, they had like 11 straight. Denver was the team that broke their streak last week. With Wembanyama getting injured right now, he has a rib contusion rather. He suffered his rib contusion when he played the Philadelphia 76ers, and he collided with Paul George. And I don't really have any updates. I know he did not play last night. Him and both Stephon Castle were ruled out versus the Blazers last night. And even without both of those guys, they still beat Portland 112-101. Not really that surprising. Portland is going to be in the play-in. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, but they're still waiting for Dame Lillard, obviously, to come back, which won't be until next year. And but still, kudos to Portland for even, I think they're at 500 right now. So kudos to them to be in the conversation for a possible playoff run. They're going to wind up playing Golden State, and with Steph Curry coming back from injury, I don't know that they're going to be able to take down the living legend of Draymond Green and Curry. San Antonio, though, had won 11 straight, like I just said, before Wemby got hurt. That was last week. One of the best streaks in the league all year. And while I'm talking about that, I thought I would also mention that San Antonio now, this is their 6th season where they have had multi-10-game win streaks. And they have won, even though they lost a couple in the past 2 weeks, they have won 23 of 26 games, which is that's incredible. That's insane. 23 of 26 games, and the real reason for that, I mean, they have a lot of talented players, but it's Wemby. Wemby is just, he's a magician. I don't know. He's a monster. I don't know what to say. But when you look at, in terms of San Antonio being able to being able to take that number 1 seed from OKC, it's probably not going to happen now at this point. I don't know that Wemby is going to get the Defensive Player of the Year, because I don't know that, they would have him play one of their last 2 or 3 games. It really doesn't make any sense. You want him healthy going into the postseason, and especially knowing that even once you get to the postseason, he may not even have to play the first couple of games if he's still dealing with that. But even without him, I think that they should probably sweep whoever they face in the first round. Nothing against the Suns or the Clippers, because that's going to be the team that they're going to have to face, one of those two. But really, what they need is for Wemby to be healthy, because by the time they roll around to the Western Conference Finals, if they're there, which everybody is assuming that they will be, that's when the real toughness of the postseason will, kick in for them, because they're more than likely going to be playing either the Oklahoma City Thunder, who, yes, they have beat 5 times already this year, but it's still the champions and still looks to be probably the best team in the league other than the Spurs. And then the Denver Nuggets could be the other team that the Spurs could wind up facing. And that's what I'm hoping for, not just because I'm a Nuggets fan, but that was a very special game to watch. And if Wemby were to be able to play on the last game of the season, I will be locked in again watching Jokic versus Wemby. And yeah, so, we'll see how things shape up down the road in the playoffs there. But, so, like we were saying, the Spurs are sitting at the number 2 seed, 61-19, trying to chase down OKC for that 1 seed. But their odds did drop below 2%, which is why I said it's probably not going to happen. It dropped below 2% when they lost to the Nuggets. Wembanyama overall this year is averaging 24.7 points per game, 11.5 rebounds, and he leads the league with 3.1 blocks per game. It was all around an MVP caliber season for him, but again, it comes to the rule, and they want to implement a 65-game rule. So, with him only having 63 games under his belt, he's probably not going to get that. I don't think he was going to anyway, because it looked like, I think Wemby looked like it was going to be 3rd on the ballot, and it looked like SGA was out in front by a lot over Jokic. And like I just said, now more than anything, you really just want him to be healthy, man. Playoffs are coming in quick now, and you got to get that right. In the Eastern Conference, the play-in picture, there's 3 teams separated by 2 games or less. So this is when it comes back to the Philadelphia 76ers. Right now, the Sixers, they held the 6th seed just a few days ago. And because it's so close, Orlando had actually moved up. They're on a 4-game win streak right now. They moved up to the 7th seed. Philly went from the 6th seed to the 8th seed. And then you got the Hornets and the Heat at 9 and 10. But the Sixers are on the outside looking in. And the 6th seed is Toronto right now, Raptors. Them and Atlanta switched spots a couple nights ago. And 76ers are only 1 game behind Toronto. So, there's still a shot. What do they got left? 3 games, I believe they have left. So, there's still a shot, but I don't know. We'll see what happens, because it's been very crazy with that many teams, with 4 or 5 teams all within one and a half games of each other. And the other news, that's what I was going to say, Joel Embiid earlier today, they said they're in Houston for tonight's game against the Rockets. He is actually getting surgery for a appendicitis. So, that's not what you want to see. The Sixers finally got healthy. They finally got right, and they were looking like they were going to be a team that would scare some other teams in the postseason. Because we know how great Paul George is when healthy. We know how great Joel Embiid is when healthy. Do we get to see it often? Not yet, no. sadly. And they do have the kid, VJ Edgecombe, the rookie, who has been, great for them this year. Tyrese Maxey, everybody knows how special he is. He was a first-time All-Star this year. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with Embiid. For Philly fans, I know that this has got to be very upsetting because every time you turn around, it seems like there's nothing you can do to keep Embiid on the court. Typically, I think with an appendicitis, when you get a surgery, as long as there's nothing serious, if they can just do a quick surgery and patch him up, I think maybe you're looking at 2 weeks, maybe. So I don't think that there's any way that he'd be able to play with them if they get to the play-in. But if they do get to the play-in and they have to, they'd have to beat Orlando, and then from there they would wind up playing the Boston Celtics in the first round, which is tough. I don't know. Good luck, man. Good luck to the Sixers. I hope a speedy recovery for Joel Embiid, although it never really seems like that's a thing with him. Paul George, Maxey, Kelly Oubre, some of these guys are really going to have to step it up and help Maxey out in a big way. Like I said, Edgecombe is another great young talent for them. And I don't know. It's sad. It really is, because it looked like things were starting to come together. The Sixers had scored like 157 points just about a week and a half ago. Then one game they had 153 points. They really look like a team that could be dominant. And we'll see what happens. Charlotte Hornets right now are the 9th seed. They're only a game and a half back from the 6th seed. So like I said, there's about 3-4 teams, counting even the 6th seed right now with Toronto, that are that could make a run and get to the 5 or 6 seed to make it out of the play-in. It'll probably wind up staying the way that it is unless Orlando makes it out. The Hawks, Sixers, and Raptors, Magic, and Hornets are all those teams that I'm talking about that are within about 2 games from each other. Atlanta holds a tiebreaker over Philly, which is obviously crucial for Philly, which is why they're probably going to stay put where they're at. Toronto is the 6th seed right now. Like I said the other night, they were actually the 5 seed. Atlanta, I believe, was the 6th seed. And for Toronto, they played against some of the top teams as of recent, and they lost to all of them. The Thunder, the Spurs, the Knicks, the Nuggets over the last month. And right now, you got your hottest teams, longest win streaks in the league. I already mentioned in the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference, you got 4 game win streaks out of the Cavaliers, the Boston Celtics, and the Magic. And like I said, I don't know. I feel bad because I'm not a Philly fan. But, you want to have the teams that are around you, make it in. The Flyers didn't look like they were going to make it in. The Sixers, we kind of thought all year long, even without Paul George, when he was out for a long time with his suspension, and Embiid with various injuries. Maxey had gotten hurt at one point. But I feel like the popular consensus was that they were always going to make the playoffs. So the fact that they have to earn their way in the play-in against a hot Orlando team that I didn't even think would be in the discussion for the play-in. I thought that they would be the 4 or 5 seed, coming into the year based off of how they looked last year. They have a very talented roster as well. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with the NBA. So in the NFL world right now, we have some news. Lamar Jackson is already there in Baltimore, and it's huge, but it's nothing that we didn't expect. You remember Steve Bisciotti said earlier this offseason that if they were going to get rid of John Harbaugh and if they were going to bring somebody else in that Lamar wanted to have some say, and if so, he better be there, be square, and really take this offseason and make the most of it, build time with that roster, build some kind of a chemistry with your new head coach, and I believe new offensive coordinator as well. Yes, because the old offensive coordinator is now the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. So, that's a great thing to see that Lamar is already ramping up, and hopefully they can get to a place this season where they can get out in front early in the AFC North. But the most surprising news right now in the NFL is that defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence from the Giants requested a trade, did not report to the voluntary offseason workouts. He is one of the best defensive interior linemen in the league right now today. And like we talked about in the last episode, the Giants can't afford to lose him. They're trying to, their defense was pretty decent last year. They're building on the offense. They have John Harbaugh now. They brought in so many key players that were a part of his run the last couple of seasons with Baltimore, and Isaiah Likely, and some other talented guys. So while you're trying to build more for Jackson Dart on that offense, the last thing, only 27 years old, and you just, if you want to have any hope in stopping the run, that's the guy that plugs the gap up the middle. They got to get something done. They got to figure it out. He is right now. He's looking at a contract worth about $30 million per year, which really isn't that far fetched when you look at his numbers. We're like 2 seasons removed from a 9-sack season, along with all his other stats. He's a special player, and they need to figure out something, some way, somehow to keep him in house, because without him, it's going to be rough. It's going to be very rough on the Giants defense, and you're looking at a team that could possibly wind up in a position this upcoming year to maybe, wind up winning the East, if not being second and making it to the playoffs. Even if it's a one and done, it really looks like a team that could make it there. Last year, I projected prior to the season that they were going to be a 10-win team. And, things went south pretty quickly. But they did show how much talent that team really has. And had Malik Neighbors have not gotten hurt, we could have been looking at a playoff team. Had Cam Skattebo not have had that bizarre ankle injury, we could have been looking at a playoff team. Jackson Dart showed a lot in year one. I didn't see a whole lot out of him from his college days, but he proved me wrong, and he's one of the best young talents in the league right now. The other thing that we could talk about is, so right now the Houston Texans exercise the 5th-year option on a couple of players. Will Anderson Jr., who it's only a matter of time before he gets paid and is the highest paid defensive end of all time, highest paid defensive player of all time. We know that. We're certain about that. What we don't know is what's going to happen with C.J. Stroud. They exercised the 5th-year option on him as well, and even Field Yates reported that they don't exactly know what they want to do with Stroud. I think this upcoming year, it won't be a make it or break it year, but for, I guess it will be, because nowadays you don't have agents and players that are saying, okay, we'll get, a medium level deal for our quarterback, our starting quarterback. Everybody's going to break the market, right? Everybody's going to be the top paid at their position. So, and right now, the number for quarterbacks, it's up to like 60 or above million per year. And why would you want to pay that to CJ Stroud if he doesn't have a largely impressive year this year? I mean, his rookie year, he looked like he was the best quarterback in the league. He surprised a lot of people. People didn't think that he was as talented as Bryce Young, which is why he didn't go first overall. He wound up not only having a better year than Bryce Young, but Bryce Young ended up getting benched, and CJ's just looked like, he could process an NFL offense at such a high level. And I do believe last year and the year before, had he have had a better offensive line, that right now it would not be a question. I think he would have already gotten paid to a long-term deal. He wouldn't have had to worry about the fifth-year option. And even last year, when he got hurt, he ended up having a concussion against the Denver Broncos and missed a bunch of games. But that defense kept them in each and every week, every single game that they played. That defensive unit is something special, not just because of Will Anderson, but their DBs, everybody, really, every piece that they have on that defense is, makes them basically almost unbeatable. And we seen they went on a 10-game win streak down the stretch last year, and when it came time for the playoffs, that was where people were getting upset, and that's where the questioning with CJ Stroud comes in. He turned the ball over 7 times in 2 games. I think it was 10 times, 5 fumbles and 5 interceptions. And you can't do that. I mean, they would have ended up beating the New England Patriots, and they would have been playing the Denver Broncos and would have went on to the Super Bowl with the fact that obviously Bo Nix got hurt. If Bo Nix wouldn't have got hurt, that would have been a heck of a game to watch Houston and Denver again for the second time. But there was a path where the Houston Texans could have wound up in the Super Bowl playing the Seattle Seahawks for the second time. And we talked about this in the last episode. The first time that they did play, the only time that they played last year, was a primetime matchup, I believe a Thursday night game or a Monday night game. And the Texans, with the offensive line issues that they had, they still were able to stay in that game with Seattle's defense. And it came down to the very end of the game, and Seattle only beat them by a touchdown. So had they have had better blockers for CJ, not only would they have beaten Seattle in prime time, but they would have gotten past New England and who knows, played Seattle a second time and possibly have won the Super Bowl. So that's obviously right now what you got to hope for if you're a Houston fan. That's what D'Amico Ryans is hoping for. But the way that the way his statement was read, he said he's our quarterback, glad he's going to be here for next season. He didn't say glad he's going to be here for the future. Why would you? Because you don't know yet. But I don't know if we should really make that more than what it is. But we'll see, because, they, in some ways, they're trying to revamp that offensive line. They brought some people in. Plus, that Tank Dell is going to be, I don't know if he's going to be ready for the first game of the season. Hopefully he will be. But he is a special player, and if he can get back to form prior to those injuries that he's had, him and Nico Collins, who's already known as one of the better wideouts in the league, and then you also have the breakout rookies from a season ago with Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins And with that backfield now, adding David Montgomery to what they already had in Woody Marks, this could be a very special team. And I mean, it's only going to get better. It should be better than it was last year. Each and every part of it. I mean, they're going to have the same defense, same offense. This is going to be, I think, year 2 that C.J. Stroud will be in the same offense with the same coordinator. And, so we'll see what happens there, whether or not they wait until his whole body of work is complete next year before he gets a big deal, or before they wind up maybe moving on from Stroud. I like CJ, and I think that that's actually a perfect fit for him to be with Houston. And he went 9-5 last year as their starter, and that was before, obviously, he got exposed in the playoffs. But, I think that is going to be everything I got now from NFL. Okay, so I'm only going to do a couple of these here. I'm not going to do the whole list of what you just seen. So, we got Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson. And obviously, this is one of the biggest discussions right now in the NFL world. And as it should be, because the draft is coming up. Mendoza he's going to go number 1 overall to the Raiders. They did just get Kirk Cousins, so we'll see how that situation unfolds, because I don't think that Mendoza will be their day 1 starter. However, between the two of these, they're mainly there's only really one name in media right now that's been backing Ty Simpson, saying that he is the better QB. The large consensus has been that Fernando is the better quarterback. Now, when you look at their numbers from last year, Fernando threw for 3,535 yards, which was 15th best in college football. And Simpson threw for 3,567, which was the 11th best. When it comes down to touchdowns, it's Fernando. He had 41. He was first in all college football. Whereas Ty Simpson had 28, which was tied for 12th. Fernando only threw 6 interceptions, tied for the 27th there. And Simpson had 5, tied for 16th. QBR, it was also Fernando, 90.3 QBR, first of all quarterbacks, whereas Simpson, 76.0, he was 20th. Wins, obviously, we know Fernando was undefeated, 16-0, and Bama went 11-4 with Simpson. He was sacked 28 times, whereas Mendoza was only sacked 25 times. The better passer rating was also Fernando with 182.9 rating. And, I mean, his rating wasn't terrible. Ty Simpson's was a pretty good passer rating, 145.2. So I'm asking you guys to comment and let me know who you got. Jokic versus Wemby. We could do this one. Points per game, as we already mentioned. Wemby 24.5, Jokic 27.9. Jokic is 8th best in the league. Wemby is tied for 13th. When it comes to rebounds, Jokic, again, he's first in the league here, 12.9 per game. Wemby 11.4, which is 5th best. Assist, Jokic 10.8. First in the league. Wemby 85th. He's tied for 85th with 3.1 assists per game, which is, like I was saying before, with triple doubles and stuff. Wemby's not really a dish it out type of center. Steals, Jokic 1.4. He's 19th. Wemby is 63rd with 1.1 steals per game. Blocks, we already know Wemby has 3.1, who leads the entire league. Jokic normally gets a little under a block per game, 0.8, so that's 49th best in the league. Field goal percentage, Jokic is all over at 57.3%, whereas Wemby is 50.4%. Free throw percentage, they're pretty much right there with each other. Jokic 82.8% and Wemby 82.2%. Double doubles, Jokic got 51, which is second best in the league, where Wemby is fifth with 39 double doubles. Wemby has had one triple double this year, tied for 21st, whereas Jokic 31 when I did this. It's actually 34 now, as I mentioned earlier. First, he's a long ways away from anybody else. All right, guys, we're almost done. I'm a little tired, if you haven't been able to tell. So for tonight's games, which has already started, I don't know what's going on. I haven't looked for either NHL or NBA, but I'm going to tell you my picks for the night. I got Montreal Canadiens over the Tampa Bay Lightning. I got the Philadelphia Flyers over the Detroit Red Wings. I also have the Utah. This one was pretty difficult for me to choose. Nashville's been on a tear as of recent. Utah as well. But Utah, I'm going to take them over Nashville. I'm going to take my Anaheim Ducks to, they got to, at some point, they got to win a game. I mean, they've lost 6 in a row. Hopefully they're going to do it tonight. I got them over San Jose. And let's go to the NBA, where I have Miami over the Toronto Raptors. I got the New York Knicks over the Boston Celtics. I got the Philadelphia 76ers without Embiid over the Houston Rockets. And then I also have Golden State Warriors, no surprise, over the Los Angeles Lakers without Reeves and Doncic. And I wouldn't be surprised if they sat LeBron just to get him ready for the playoffs. The furthest they could really fall is if Houston were to win tonight over the Sixers, and then LA would fall to the 5 seed. But those are my picks. We'll see how everything goes. And that's a wrap for Elite Sports Talk. Like I said, hey, we crowned 2 new champions in college basketball. The NHL and the NBA are coming down to the wire. The NFL offseason is already heating up, as we can see. And who do you guys think will win the Atlantic Division? Is it going to be Buffalo? Is it going to be Tampa or Montreal? Drop me, some replies in the comments and let me know what you guys think, especially with what we were just talking about, the who you got section. Do you got Jokic or do you got Wemby? And also, I do have more to come when it comes for the who do you got stats. I really like that. Do you got Mendoza, Ty Simpson? Who do you think is going to be the better player? And on my next episode, we're going to have more on the NHL wild card, because the final results should be in by then. Same thing with the NBA play-in. We should know what the matchups are going to be and what nights they're going to be on. I'll have more NFL offseason news, so stay locked in. And please, guys, I'm trying to do my best. I'm trying to get better at this. Look me up. Look up Elite Sports Talk on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Rumble. I'm also on Kick and Twitch right now. I'm live streaming. I also have some stuff I put up on IG every now and then, TikTok and Facebook. And I also always have some stuff on both Blogger and Substack. So come on, subscribe, hit those like buttons, comment, and let me know how you think I'm doing, I guess, really. And I'll see you guys later, and that's a wrap.